It's 1991, Moscow. The Soviet Union's colossal red flag is lowered one last time, buildings once bathed in socialist ideals now steeped in uncertainty. The world's most ambitious experiment in communism just collapsed overnight. But what really brought down this giant? And why do these ideologies still grip our politics and money today? Stick around, because this collapse is just the opening act of a century's worth of ideas battling for the soul of nations. The Soviet collapse wasn't just politics. It was the death throes of an ideology that promised equality but stumbled on economics and governance. Mikhail Gorbachev tried to breathe new life into the Soviet Union with glasnost, openness, and perestroika economic restructuring in the 1980s. Yet his reforms backfired, igniting fierce public criticism, exposing cracks in centralized control, and accelerating nationalism. In December 1991, the hammer and sickle lowered. The USSR was no more, a stark lesson in how reforms in a rigid system can trigger its collapse. Imagine a giant game of Monopoly played where one person controls all the money, properties, and rules. Impossible to innovate when one holds the power. The Soviet command economy was exactly that. Central planners dictated production, ignoring market feedback, leading to shortages, waste, and stagnation. Like a car with its brakes locked, productivity stalled and couldn't steer towards growth or efficiency. This upheaval wasn't just an end, but a messy beginning. Former Soviet republics scrambled to build democracies and markets overnight, but freedom came fragile, uneven. The collapse triggered global shifts. Capitalism surged, but with new challenges like inequality and cultural clashes. It proved that dismantling an ideology system is easier than building a free society from its ashes. While the Soviet Union fell, capitalism was evolving too, often tangled with democracy, yet never quite perfectly matched. Alan and William Ebenstein dive into how post-war capitalism depended heavily on savvy monetary policy. Think of central banks as tightrope walkers balancing inflation and employment with every interest rate move. In the US, Paul Volcker's 1980s battle against soaring inflation shows this acutely. He raised rates so high it sparked a recession but ultimately tamed the economy's wild beast. This delicate dance kept capitalism alive but fragile. Cultural conservatism, often overlooked, shaped capitalist democracies profoundly. It acted like the root system beneath a tree, quiet, stabilizing forces and values that preserved family, tradition, and social order amid fast economic change. Ignoring this can make a system brittle. Consider how backlash to globalization or social upheaval often springs from this cultural core seeking preservation. Then there's Deng Xiaoping, who rewrote the rulebook. Instead of wholesale communism or Western capitalism, he merged them, opening markets cautiously while keeping the party's firm grip. China became the ultimate hybrid, proving capitalism's flexibility but also raising questions about the price of growth without political freedom. It's capitalism, but on a leash much tighter than the West is used to. Behind every government and economy lies an ideological heartbeat, complex, competing, and often contradictory. The Ebensteins reveal socialism and libertarianism as two poles on a freedom spectrum. Socialism's focus on equality and state control clashes sharply with libertarianism's fierce individualism and minimal government. Imagine it as a scale. One side seeks shared security, the other maximum independence. The tension between these ideals fuels debates about taxes, healthcare, and personal freedom worldwide. Fascism surged as a fierce reaction to economic turmoil and perceived threats, epitomized most chillingly in Mussolini's Italy and Hitler's Germany. It combined nationalist fervor with totalitarian control, a dark cocktail that promised order but delivered oppression and war. The book underscores how despair can make extreme ideologies terrifyingly appealing, warning that vigilance against such forces remains crucial. Ultimately, these ideologies sculpted 20th century geopolitics: war, peace, and progress. The Cold War, cultural revolutions, and economic crises weren't just headlines but contests of values and systems. Recognizing these invisible battles helps decode today's politics, reminding us that the ideologies we inherit shape the futures we fight for. Back in 1991 Moscow, the last Soviet flag drops, but the story never truly ends. Each ideology Ebenstein and Ebenstein analyze shows us that these aren't just academic theories, they're battles over how we live, govern, and dream. So next time you hear a political rant or economic forecast, think back to that collapse, that dance, and those collisions. Try this: pick one ideology you hear about and trace its real-world impact. It'll change how you see today's headlines. Subscribe for more book summaries like this one.